Everyone loves super moves. It's that time where you can squeeze all your rage into a bitter little ball and release it at an appropriate time. Nothing feels better than landing that thing that takes off half the HP bar of a boss, or of this guy halfway across the world. And nothing feels worse than doing all of that build-up and missing everything. Supers are almost by definition the most powerful moves a game is going to offer you. But there are so many ways that a game can give players that power, and balancing them with trade-offs is often what creates the signature feel of that game's combat. Let's take a tour of super move systems and see the give and take that comes with real ultimate power. Hey, if you're watching these videos, there's like a 99% chance you've got a game design project kicking around in your brain. Maybe you've got some notes in a notebook. I think it's time you move all those ideas to a better place. Like today's sponsor, Milanote. Milanote is the easiest tool I've ever used to help you and your team organize all of your creative projects and look good doing it. Milanote has built-in game design templates to help keep all of your notes and references, storyboards and mood boards, graphics, and links organized and updated so everyone can see what's going on. And they have a full mobile app ready to go so you can work on it wherever inspiration strikes. Mike's got some of his own game ideas kicking around on his Milanote boards. It's like Roller Coaster Tycoon, but everyone running the place is kinda sketchy. Looking good. We've also used it for organizing notes for our videos, and it's flexible enough to work there too, no problem. It's great for solo stuff, but it really shines when you have a team all working on the same thing. You can slap in notes, images, videos, tasks, and more, and connect it all together. Let me just slap this in here. Brilliant. Teams can collaborate in real time on these visual boards, so you can be confident that everyone's on the same page and working towards the same vision. If you're in school, you could start using it for group projects, send the link over to whoever you're working with, and you'll all see exactly what everyone's working on. Milanote is free. Free! Can't beat that. And there's no time limit, so jump right in. Use the link in the description to sign up now, and you'll get entered into a drawing to win a free premium account, just for Design Doc viewers. Click the link in the description to get started. Your game design ideas deserve their own space on Milanote. Super moves have a sort of paradox baked in. They're meant to be game-changing moves, the ultimate reward in a combat system and the strongest thing you can do. They have to be really good to make the payoff worth the work. But they also can't be too good. An overwhelming super move dominates the rest of the game's strategy and makes any other option almost meaningless in comparison. So every game has to figure out some way of balancing their most powerful moves to make sure they straddle the line between useless and overpowering. Now, what that balancing looks like can be a lot of different things. Risk, timing, approach, opportunity cost. Developers can try to balance a super with almost anything they can think of, and what levers they choose to pull can completely change the flow and feel of a game's combat system. Let's start off real basic. The most common kind of super, in fighting games at least, is the super move that relies on filling a meter before you can use it. But then, how do you fill the meter? Often, the meter fills by you doing some damage in the game. You punch Bison, then you get Spicin'. These super moves act as a bonus for fighting well over a period of time. To get a better payoff, well, fight better. Basic super meters show up in every genre, not just in fighting games. Hyrule Warriors has that classic button mashing Musou combat, beating up hordes of enemies with simple combos. Those combos and some pickups lying around build a meter that lets you perform several different kinds of supers. Straightforward special attacks, the rare focus spirit supers that use your magic gauge, or the weak point smashes where you can really punish a staggered target. Each attack gives you a flashy, feel-good payoff that blows away everything around you. The system is simple, but it still has that constant rhythm of build-up and release that a good super system has. Splatoon has plenty of ways for you to build and use your meter. Every kit has one of a dozen or so different special weapons that function as the game's super moves. Many are bombastic attacks like the Shark Bomb, a crab tank that's great at holding the front line, and lock-on missiles to scatter your opponents. Some specials are more about utility, like boosting teammates or revealing enemy locations. To build meter, all you have to do is ink up some terrain. You've got choices to make. Do you fight off the enemy team directly and build meter naturally? Or do you hang back, ink terrain to build meter quickly, and pop that special in a more coordinated attack? It's not a complicated system, but it's extremely flexible, letting you dial in your tactics to exactly what the match requires at that time. The super meter can be even simpler and still generate a lot of depth in combat. Punchout has a very simple kind of super meter in its Star Punch system, but it gets a lot of mileage in how it plays with risk and reward. Punchout is a game of dodging and counterattacking. Your opponents have distinct tells for their attacks, and recognizing what's happening and how to properly counter them is the foundation of the game's strategy. If you figure it out and hit back in the right place at the right time during taunts or attacks, you earn a star. You can use it right away, and that punch will do more damage than normal. Or you can bank the star and wait until you get more. More stars do more damage, but also if you hit an opponent at just the right time with a 3-star punch, you can even KO them in one blow. As opponents get tougher, using star punches wisely becomes more important. Some fights are extremely difficult to win without it. You have to be careful though. Anytime you get hit, you lose your bank stars and will have to start over. Earning stars works a little differently with each fighter too. Some are easy to earn with simple counter punches. Others require split-second timing to hit them before an attack lands, which makes getting 1 star difficult and racking up 3 without getting hit pretty daunting. The star punch system elevates the game past just a race to 0 HP. The timing required and the risk calculations you have to make to use star punches wisely give the game its signature gameplay feel, and that payoff of nailing a triple star punch helps make all the learning and memorization feel worthwhile. Not every player has the patience to wait around. Forget setting up, screw nuance. What if I want to use a super whenever I feel like? Can that work? Some of Soul Calibur 2's super moves are unblockable, and they aren't connected to a meter at all. Several unblockables make you charge up before you can use them, but others are available at all times. These unblockable moves do a ton of damage if they connect, and can turn the tide of a match no problem. But if you don't have to do anything to use one, what keeps players from spamming these unblockable moves all the time? Well, in Soul Calibur, they're horribly slow. Not all of them, but most of them. They have huge windups, a fiery particle effect, and you should be able to see them coming a mile away. Landing one of these supers raw on a halfway experienced player is really unlikely. They're cumbersome to set up in a combo to make them hit, and by being unviable compared to other options, these unblockables become one of the more ignored mechanics in the game. Okay, so fill the meter and do the biggest punch. It'd be pretty boring if every super was just a big punch. All a super has to really be is just very powerful. That power can take on totally different forms. Tons of single-player action games use a super as a transformation. Use your resource to enter a powered-up state with either an enhanced version of your moveset, or a whole new one. Devil May Cry's Devil Trigger is the go-to vanilla case that includes both. The specifics vary game to game and person to person, but entering Devil Trigger typically makes you faster, stronger, and you get some healing regen while it's active. After some upgrades, you can get some exclusive moves like summoning Phantom Swords. In nearly every iteration, Devil Trigger's strength is balanced by its brevity. It doesn't last super long, even with a full meter, so it's more of a bonus than an overwhelming strategy. It can help a lot, but it doesn't overshadow your basic combat skills. Devil Trigger is a great emergency option to help you out of a jam, and if you have everything under control, it's a great tool that'll let you really start styling on your opponents. Jak 2 had its own iteration of a transformation super, but it's really underpowered. Dark Jak can be activated once your gauge is full, but all you get is a moderately more powerful melee attack. The game is largely built around gunplay and keeping your distance from enemies, but while you're Dark Jak, you have to run up to everyone, and you're taking hits the whole time. You're just as vulnerable like this as you were originally, and you can't take that many hits. Rushing into the line of fire, or even worse, a group of enemies already firing at you, is a good way to get dead. It's kinda useless. Kingdom Hearts 2 introduces Drive Forms, a superpowered state that upgrades your core moveset and improves your movement options. Beat up dudes, fill this meter, and when you've filled it completely enough times, you can trigger the change. Over the course of the game, you unlock 5 different forms, from the offensive melee abilities of Valor, to the magic-oriented Wisdom, to the nostalgia-beats-all of Limit form. Each drive form has its own flavor to keep your combat approach from getting too stagnant, and each can be leveled up to get you better movement options even when you aren't using your super. But all of this power comes at a horrible cost. Each time you use a drive form, there's an increased chance of it backfiring, and instead turning you into an anti-form. Anti-form is this heartless looking thing that still gives you a big speed bonus, but your attacks are much weaker, your defense is terrible, and you cannot heal. Most importantly, you don't have a way to get out of the form besides to wait for the meter to run out or for combat to end. It's deliberately the worst of the dry forms, and is designed to leave you in a vulnerable state. If you start to rely on dry forms too much, you're just getting closer and closer to triggering that anti-form, and that can be a disaster if it happens in the middle of a tough boss. Do you want to risk using it on these little guys to make that chance of anti-form go up some more? Do you even need to risk using a dry form to take care of this boss? Or can you manage without it? The risk of an anti-form makes the decision to use your super a lot less cut and dry. If you want to go even more extreme, the original Dahack series has you covered with Data Drain, a super skill that greatly weakens enemies and bosses and is required to defeat some of them, but will also give you a full-on game over if you use it too often, including using it when you're forced to. Yeah, try not to design softlocks into the fabric of your game. Supers often take center stage in combat, but that's not the only way. You can still make a decent super system out of mechanics that are a little more passive. Just do whatever you were gonna do anyway, and a little later, you get some superpowers. Trance in Final Fantasy IX is the game's limit break system. A trance gauge fills up, and once it's full, you automatically go into a powered up state that increases any damage you do, wipes away negative statuses, and gives you access to stronger abilities. Whenever you make a hit that fills up the gauge, you immediately go into trance. No matter if you're fighting some random little guy or even if the hit that filled the bar just KO'd the last remaining enemy. You don't have a choice. You're going into trance whether you like it or not. Once you've had a handful of turns in the mode, or if the battle ends, the trance wears off and the bar is empty again. FF9's trance is notorious for being almost impossible to strategize around. It takes about 30 years to build up, and that last hit comes at almost a random time. It's very difficult to set up trance to happen when you'd like it to. Pep in Dragon Quest XI is mostly the same idea as trance. Once your character gives and takes enough hits, they can become pepped up, which grants predetermined stat buffs and cranks up their critical hit rate. The buff lasts for 6 to 8 turns, but you can cash it out to have a character use a special pep power that they've learned throughout the game. Many pep powers are used by a single character, but there are also special team attack powers. The team attack requirements can vary, either just one character being pepped up while someone else specific is in the party, or some that need the entire party to be pepped up at once. Just like trance, it can be inconvenient to use pep powers efficiently. You kind of get it when you get it. You can't even see the meter this time. At least it comes around more often than FF9. While useful, the powers aren't so strong that you'll build your whole strategy around them, especially with the prerequisites for the team attack powers. Some side quests force you to use a specific pep power to complete, but you might be waiting around a bit to set it up. For both Final Fantasy IX and Dragon Quest XI, the super moves are very worth having, but the lack of ability to strategize around them undercuts how much they can contribute. They aren't overpowered, but they almost act more like random bonuses rather than part of the texture of their game's battle systems. Supers can be balanced by just the sheer cost of using one. The bigger the move, the more it should cost, right? If you're going to rely on the cost of power to make the player think twice about using it, you've got to make sure that cost is big enough. If not, you can fall into the same trap that Metroid Prime 3 ran into. Hyper Mode lets Samus tap into the raw power of Phazon, making her arm cannon and other weapons super fast, more powerful, and to top it off, Samus essentially becomes invincible. Your health bar is replaced with a Phazon meter, and any attack drains the meter, returning you to normal once it empties. At first, that's that, but over time, the Phazon starts to corrupt Samus. If you stay in hyper mode too long, you can enter an overload state and the Phazon meter starts to fill back up on its own. If it gets to the top, the Phazon finishes the job and you get a game over. What would you pay for all of this power? 1 million energy tanks? A gajillion? You get unlimited destruction for 1 energy tank. Wait, that's it? The story justification for hyper mode and Phazon is nice, and the mechanic is trying to incorporate a risk-reward element, but there's a lot of reward for a very low amount of risk. The balance isn't there. It's very easy to pay the single tank to kick it off, devastate basically anything in front of you in hyper mode, and recharge your health from all the stuff you just blew up. The overload meter drains on using weapons, so just keep firing your weapons. You can even prolong hyper mode by just not burning up weapons too quickly. Hyper mode is a dominant strategy that overwhelms any tactical considerations in the game's shooting mechanics, flattens the experience, and saps some of the fun out of it. You don't have to use meters in your super system, of course. If you want something a little less tied to specific player actions, you could try using a cooldown. Cooldowns can let anyone get a super at a set schedule and then choose how to deploy it after the fact. The timer itself gives devs a pretty easy option to balance and fine-tune the system, and no matter how badly your player is playing, they at least get to once in a while have a cool move to call their own. Most MOBAs are built with this as part of their strategic core, and the mind games that involve what your opponent is capable of, depending on when they use their super move last, greatly shapes how matches play out. If you're going to share the information about the cooldown timer, this system can even be used as a warning. Red Alert 2 broadcasts the cooldown timers for its super weapons, and the ticking clock can give players a clear short-term goal to try to take the problem out before the timer reaches 0. Cooldowns are sort of halfway between the use once rhythm of XFactor, which we'll talk about later, and the play to build meter rhythm of the standard meter supers. It's not necessarily better or worse than either, it's just another option to tailor the feel of the game to what you think would be best. Whether you're right or wrong is for your players to decide. You have to be very careful with how often you hand out these types of big super moves. If players can use them too often, it can completely negate the importance of any other strategy. Mario Tennis Ultra Smash is more or less like the earlier Mario Tennis games, but with one important difference. Oh, it breaks the game. The Mega Mushroom makes your character big, and lets you reach and angle shots to almost anywhere you want them to go. It's really easy to not lose when you're like this. Once one character uses a Mega Mushroom, that's very likely the end of the point. Now, if they were hard to get, maybe that would be an interesting power-up to have. But instead, the game rains them down on both of you constantly. Every point, both sides. They even stop the game, change the camera angle, do a cutscene you can't skip, change the camera angle back, and then resume the game. Every time anyone gets one of them, which again is every point. You almost can't have a long and satisfying rally because you both get game-ending super moves every 5 seconds. Handing out supers like candy might sound like fun, but when they happen so often, these special moves get much less special, and the normal moves become totally irrelevant. The game shrinks, from a full game of tennis, to a tennis-flavored sprint to a power-up. Super moves can be more than just big damage dealers. One of the biggest strengths of a super move is how it can punctuate combat with an amazing moment of spectacle. I've had plenty of great looking supers to choose from all video long, but what happens when your flashy super moves are a bit too flashy? Kingdom Hearts 3 may have gone a bit overboard with its attraction attacks. Sometimes some of the enemies you fight will have a green circle on them. Hitting them will give you access to an attraction attack. Disneyland itself will tag in, so you can live your dream of shooting fireworks at fools from the Thunder Mountain Railroad train. This is amazing. And it's amazing again. And pretty good again. And, wow, these are kinda long, aren't they? The biggest problem at the game's release was how often the option came up and how easily you could hit it. You could be building up a big combo, hitting a ton of enemies with a fast finisher like a big spell command or a Keyblade form change, but then one of those green circles appears and you accidentally trigger the Mad Hatter teacups. Now you're stuck playing a minigame you've already played. The novelty of Buzz Lightyear astro blasting your opponents wears thin faster than you might think, especially when normal combat would have taken care of them, and the whole system becomes very disruptive to the flow of the game. Then they patched in an option to turn most of them off. Problem solved. Super moves are also good to use as a catch-up mechanic. It doesn't feel great to be stuck going through the motions of a game whose outcome is assured, so super moves can be a great way to help a losing player get back in the fight. In the Advance Wars series, CO powers are super moves that can drastically change the abilities or costs of your units. It's another meter to fill up, and when it does, you can build stuff for way cheaper, or have your units defend more easily, or make your tanks tank way harder, or whatever else makes sense for your elementary school general to do. But how do you fill the meter? Well, it's gonna take some sacrifice on your unit's part. You build some of the meter by attacking, but you can build a ton of it by getting attacked. In a game where one bad encounter can really hinder how you do, filling more of the super meter bar can be a nice consolation prize. Racing games are notorious for weird catch-up mechanics, and Nintendo just invented an even weirder one. F-Zero 99 is everyone's favorite surprise of the fall. Everyone's, not just mine. It's the first series entry in 20 years, but it's reworked from the ground up to work as a 99-player game. Race around an SNES-era F-Zero track, beat everyone else, and don't run out of health. It's a simple game, with most of the chaos coming from the sheer number of racers bumping into each other until they explode. Getting lost in the pack can be a death sentence, but the game has an all-new catch-up mechanic that helps you elevate out of the melee, the Skyway system. When this gold meter fills up, you can spend it all to break away from the pack and hop onto a better, more exclusive track high above the fighting masses. The Skyway is on rails to keep you from falling off, and just covered with boosters to cut you through the lower track's twists and turns. Nothing lasts forever though, and soon you'll be back alongside everyone else. Hopefully you're a lot further ahead than you were before. The further behind you were to start, the longer you get to stay up in the Skyway. The easy road isn't automatic. You can still miss boosters even if you can't fall off of the Skyway, and some parts of it give you a better shortcut than others, so good timing is important. If you use it right, it's very versatile, with direct shortcuts, skips for difficult track sections, a great defensive escape if you're low on health, and since you can only fall off of the Skyway on a straightaway, you can time it just right to stay up there for even longer than normal. Not to mention how much pinball action you get to stay out of down below. Now getting up there, that'll take some crafty moves on your part. You build the meter with these special gold sparks, which pop out from other players as they bump into each other. Special gold bumpers also spawn sometimes towards the back, and bumping them will get you a bunch of sparks. Tying sparks to player collisions gives those in the back of the pack the best opportunity to collect more of them faster, which helps develop an ebb and flow to each race. You'll likely get 2 or 3 Skyways per track, and as the field narrows down, so do the amount of sparks and the number of times you're likely to fill the meter. The last race in Grand Prix mode only has 20 drivers left, so you'll barely get a chance to use it, and you'll have to rely on your core racing skills to come out ahead at the end. The Skyway is a very original mechanic for the series and the genre. It's powerful enough to massively improve your odds of winning, but tapers off enough when it counts to keep it from being that ultimate trump card that can make these types of supers the only thing that matters in the game. It's a brilliant piece of game mechanic balancing that helps solve a nagging catch-up problem that other racing games often have. Supers that get implemented as catch-up mechanics can be a double-edged sword. One of the most contentious systems appears in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, with its XFactor mechanic. UMVC 3 has a standard super meter, but also every character gets to activate a separate XFactor mode once a match. You get a massive attack boost and health regen, and the effect gets much stronger and lasts longer the fewer characters you have left on your team. At max level 3, the XFactor is so strong that it's rallied against by both casual and competitive players alike. Making a mistake against someone using XFactor can cost you the game, even when you're far ahead, as landing even basic combos can easily kill most characters. XFactor can be versatile, and you do only get to use it once per match, so you do have to strategize around it, but the dramatic late turn can feel unearned. It can lead to all kinds of mind games and strategic play, but it can feel overtuned at level 3. Snowballing a match that can seem like it cheapens or even nullifies playing the game well beforehand. For many players, losing via XFactor can feel worse than just losing normally. Not all fighting games approach a super system with careful competitive balance in mind. Some games just lean into the fun of it. Ever since Brawl, the final smash has been a staple of Smash Bros. In casual and party modes. With the Smash Ball item turned on, one will pop up on the stage from time to time. And when it does, it's a mad dash to break the piñata. If you're the lucky soul to do it, you can activate your Final Smash, a devastating super move as long as you're not one of these. The Final Smash is likely to KO all but the healthiest opponents if it lands. Each character's Final Smash is unique, but the majority are just about landing one basic initial hit. Easy for anyone to do. The chaos and randomness inherent to determining who gets the Smash Ball, on top of the ridiculous imbalance of how powerful the moves are, means the mechanic wasn't ever going to be fit for competitive Smash. Turns out borderline undodgeable supers do not make a great meta. Smash Ultimate even dipped a toe into making it less random and more of a meter system, where you can use the toned down version of your final smash once you fill it. But it still mostly highlights how far out of balance the original setup is. If you don't mind that it's out of balance though, you can crank up the spectacle and just make the whole thing as fun to play as possible. If you've got your own ideas for a new super move system, sign up for Millinote and start planning it out on a board over there. They'll help you organize your thoughts. Those boards are great. Sign up now to get in on the free premium account drawing for Design Doc viewers. Links in the description. Head down to the comments and let us know what you're thinking, or let us know about some unusual super move systems that try to balance their power in other ways. Super moves have to be strong to be worth doing, but something must keep them in balance. Design the system with a give and take in mind, and you'll set your players up for a big payoff.